What's up you guys, Naesam here, and I kind of wanted to make a video going over all of the 7.1 changes to LA Shaman. So I compiled a little list here of all the changes, and it appears to be empty, so I guess that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. So obviously I'm joking, there actually are some changes, but, well, there's one change. I'll go over some other stuff as well, so if you already saw the change, don't leave now. But basically, the main change, the only documented change, is that Stormkeeper, instead of its normal instant cast, it makes the next 3 lightning bolts or chain lightnings deal 200% additional damage. Now it also makes them instant cast, but the catch is that Stormkeeper also has a cast time. Or now has a cast time. So before you'd cast Stormkeeper instant cast and you have to stop and do like the full 1.5 second cast times, assuming you have a lot of haste. Now we can basically be like AoE burst god. So I'm going to wait for this details combat to end. So there we go. So we already had decent AoE burst, but now we can do this and then just like blow something up. That was with very little procs, doing over 1 million DPS on those first couple casts there. So this is going to be really useful for things like Wisps on Cenarius, as long as you're really careful about the Thorns, because that could one-shot you. And in Nighthold, there's a lot more burst AoE, so hopefully that'll make us a little more viable. But that's the only documented change, but there are some other things I want to talk about as well. So the next thing that I've actually gotten a surprisingly small amount of questions about is the new potions in 7.1 called the Potion of Prolonged Power. What it basically does is it gives you 2500 of all your main stats, so not like haste, not mastery, any of that stuff. It gives you 2500 intellect, agility, strength. So it's basically just for us, it's just 2500 intellect. That's a new potion and it's much cheaper to make than Deadly Grace. So I did a whole bunch of testing with it, like simming and stuff, and I discovered that it is slightly worse than Deadly Grace, but it's only worse by about like a 100 DPS over 6 minutes. So unless you're like filthy rich in game, I would definitely suggest going with Potion of Prolonged Power. The thing with that potion is that 2500 main stat doesn't really sound like that much, because it's really not, but it lasts a full minute, which for Ellie Shaman, our Fire Ellie lasts a full minute and scales with intellect. So if you want to do it properly, you use it with your Fire Ellie every time, and it's just about as effective as Deadly Grace, because Deadly Grace for Ellie Shaman actually wasn't all that amazing, because a lot of our damage is Fire Ellie, and Deadly Grace is not, it does not take pets into account when it's doing its little every spell has a chance to make more damage thing. So this new potion's actually pretty good for us. A lot of specs, unfortunately, kind of still have to use the Old War or Deadly Grace because the new one isn't very good for them, and the super bursty specs like Fire Mages and such. But we got lucky on this one where most of our burst comes from a pet that also scales with main stat, so we get to use Prolonged Power. So I would definitely suggest using that. And again, if you want to use it properly, use it every time you use Fire Ellie. So there are a few other changes that are not documented, so keep in mind that they are absolutely not even close to being final, and they're probably just Blizzard like messing around with the tuning while they monitor the testing for the Trial of Valor to see what Ellie Shamans end up doing, and they're probably doing it with other classes too, maybe people just haven't noticed. But this was brought to light on the forums by someone from the Shaman Discord, and they were saying that there are a few changes that I decided to investigate myself, and it seems they've already changed since then. So it's definitely being changed very frequently. But the main one is that Earthshock is now doing more damage. Earlier it was doing 15% more damage, now it's doing almost exactly 10% more damage. So I want to get to 100 Maelstrom real quick, and I just love doing that. And we have the crit buff and everything, over 1 million crit with 873 eye level. It's doing exactly 10% more damage than it does on live for me. Again, this is changing constantly, and if it's not documented, it's probably not going to make it to live. It's probably still something they're testing and working on, but it's something that's, it's a little optimism, I guess, to show you guys this, that they are trying things with Earthshock. Apparently Frost Shock was changed too, but that doesn't really mean anything, because Ice Fury was still much worse, and with these new potions it's going to be even worse. Another change is that previously on live, the little Storm Elemental guy that comes from Stormkeeper did not scale with haste, unless you used Heroism. Don't know why. He just didn't cast any faster without Heroism. Now he does scale with haste, but that also made it to live. I don't know exactly when. on the date I'm recording this, October 23rd, I went on live and decided to test it to see if it changed, and apparently it's happening live now as well. I don't know when that happened, but that's good. That means that trait is a little better now. Another thing, Earth Grab Totem. Or Earthbind Totem. It's back. I don't know why. Maybe it was a typo or something, but it's here. I don't know where it came from. But if you spec Earth Grab Totem, you have both. Now, one thing I have not tested is if they share a cooldown. So, throw this out there, and they do not. It's interesting. So you could, like, really, really slow things with this. Almost, like, permanently. They both last 20 seconds. So yeah, you could actually permanently have one down. So that's interesting. I don't know why this is back, but it is. And we'll see if it stays. I kind of doubt it, because I feel like that's something they would have announced. I don't know why they just give it to us and then... Or I don't know why they put it on the PTR to test it out. It's like people only know it's there. So that's just a strange thing that has been observed. So after looking a little more in depth at the Stormkeeper change, as I said earlier, it'll be really good for burst AoE. It'll make that little niche really powerful for LA Shaman. But our main problem point right now is single target, and unfortunately, it does very, very little to remedy that. I decided to use a stopwatch and some math and figure out how much time it takes to use Stormkeeper effectively on live and how much time it takes to use Stormkeeper effectively on PTR. So using Stormkeeper and casting all of the lightning bolts takes about 6 seconds on live with my current amount of haste, 34%. And on PTR, it takes about 3.5 seconds, so you're gaining about 1 cast every minute out of this. One good thing is that it does minimize the loss of Stormkeeper charges, but that's pretty rare. But sometimes if you get unlucky with mechanics, you use your Stormkeeper, then suddenly you get Rod or whatever, and you end up not being able to finish all of the Stormkeeper casts, so you lose a bit of damage out of that. That will be 100% not a thing anymore, unless you end up going out of range for some reason, which shouldn't really happen. So that's, I mean, it's still a good change, and I think it'll help with AoE, but for our main problem point, being single target, it doesn't really help pretty much at all. So that's unfortunate. The Earthshock change could, but Earthshock isn't really that big. It's not really that much of our damage without the Boots legendary, which fortunately I have, but most people don't. So that's not really going to change, even if that does go through, is what I'm saying, because it's very likely this won't go through. It's very likely they're just, like, someone messed up the number or something, so don't take this as a final statement or anything. But even if that Earthshock change does go through, it's still not going to be that much better. I haven't actually done the math myself, but someone on the forums was saying it's about a 3% total DPS increase, which if you look at the statistics page, excuse me, that would put us, well, only 3% higher than we are, which is still very low. So, LA Shaman didn't get a whole lot of love, and that wouldn't really be like a huge thing if all the other underlying specs didn't get love, which they did, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for them. If we got some love too, I wouldn't be upset. But like Frost Mages and Frost DKs both got buffed, and they were actually outperforming us, which is frustrating. Hopefully they'll talk about it on the Q&A coming up. But that about summarizes all of the changes for 7.1 and the potion use and all other stuff, and even the undocumented changes that hopefully stay, but it's very unlikely they will. At least right now. They may come back later after they're done figuring out what they exactly want to do with Shaman. So sorry for the disappointment. Hopefully the next patch we get some changes. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.